some files get stolen from the Mystery Case Files Academy, the same academy where the Master Detective came from, the Master Detective heads to the abandoned Zenith Museum of Oddities in an attempt to get them back. Upon arrival, not only do they find that 3 other agents have gone missing, but that this whole thing was an elaborate trap set by an individual calling himself the Archivist. Trapped inside Zenith, the Master Detective must make their way through mock-ups of their past cases in an attempt to get themselves and the other agents out safely. This game felt more like what Rewind was going for. It manages to be nostalgic of past games while telling its own interesting story, something that Rewind decidedly did not accomplish. While the game mainly focuses on the Ravenhurst games, the Madame Fate games, and for some reason Broken Hour, it also has references to other previous games sprinkled throughout, like a skull with a 13 on it for the 13th skull, and a picture of the town of Biddeford, Maine from Shadow Lake. And none of it felt like it was reaching or trying too hard to be nostalgic. A lot of this game's success is because of its villain. While it's never outright stated, it is heavily implied that the Archivist tried out to be a Master Detective, but was denied, probably because they are both egotistical and maniacal. He feels that he is better than literally everyone, even Alistair, whom he constantly praises. I do certainly agree that he is better than Alistair, because he's an interesting villain. He has studied all of the past cases of the Master Detective and created his own twisted versions of them, hence all these references to the previous games. It's all very well done. All that being said, I do still have some grievances. There's some minor continuity errors in the Madame Fate section where it mentions that everybody died, even though most of them came back for Fate's Carnival, and some of them even survived that game. Another problem is the NPCs. There are 3 agents, presumably from the same agency where the Master Detective is from, and they are very important to the game considering they're the people you're here to rescue. The problem with putting in NPCs is that they, by the very nature of the game itself, can't do much. In the Black Veil, they were able to solve this by having Allison just go off and do her own thing in a different part of town. This game takes place in a more confined area, so it's harder to hide the fact that the NPCs are just standing around doing nothing. They also fall to plot stupidity a couple of times because they need to vacate the particular portion of the game that they're in. There's a little puzzle later in the game that's set up kind of like a game of whack-a-mole. Only instead of hitting moles as they pop up, it's basically following a series of moles. So 1 mole popped up and you hit it, and then 2 moles popped up and you had to hit the correct one, otherwise it goes all the way back to the beginning. And it's kind of exponential, so it's 1 mole and then 2 mole and 3 moles, and etc. And then you have to do that 8 times. I'm already not good at remembering things, and that was just too much. There's a moment where you have to find a queen in a hidden object scene. And I didn't get a screen cap of this, and I absolutely should have, but there is literally a Queen of Spades right there, and that's not the queen that they're looking for. And if I'm remembering correctly, the Queen of Spades, it's not even like you need to find a card or anything, it's just there to be deceptive. This is an issue in previous games that hasn't really come up in the later games, so it's kind of annoying that they brought it back. Finally, I don't understand why the creators of this game have decided to latch on to Broken Hour. Ravenhurst and Madame Fate, of course, make sense because they are so important to the overall series. But of all of the non-Ravenhurst related games that they could choose from, they went with Broken Hour? Really? I just wish they had picked a different game that was less mediocre. Also, while I admittedly didn't time it, I feel like we were in the Broken Hour section longer than we were in the Madame Fate and Ravenhurst section, which just doesn't make any sense. But I know that I spent a lot of time talking about them. Ultimately, all of these issues are minor at best. I really enjoyed this game, and I feel like they were finally able to create a good version of Rewind. And for all of that, I give it an 8 out of 10. And with all of that being said, I will see all of you tomorrow.